Good evening, everyone. Meow. I think it's time for a very short light read.
Yep.
You okay there?
Yep, I'm fine.
Seem kind of low energy today, Panda. Yeah, okay. All right. You don't have to look at me like that.
Like what?
Like, duh, I'm low energy. All right. I think I can summarize most of the beginning part of this chapter. And then there's some pretty interesting stuff at the end part of this chapter that I think you might be into. So we will see.
Okay.
All right, we are on Colony 15.10. So, let me look at this. Taylor is making her escape from the property, and she's holding a lot of guilt, of course.
Yeah, I noticed in the channel that people are talking about how actually this is these are actually family members of Dina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just like it's so messed up, right? And she's like she is looking at herself and just being like, I didn't have an excuse. Like, this isn't someone like Lung or the Slaughterhouse Nine, right? He wasn't even a bad person.
Yeah.
And if she had waited just a little longer, she might have killed someone as a result of that. In fact, she might still have killed him and she wouldn't know because her first aid knowledge wasn't all that recent or complete.
Neither was mine, apparently.
Right?
I thought you could just, stab an EpiPen anywhere.
Nope. Apparently you should avoid the arm.
Good thing I'm not allergic to anything. I guess I would have died.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just kind of, my go-to strategy for a first aid kit is go to the back, get the box, open the box, and read the instructions.
Mm-hmm.
While presumably the front desk calls 911 and we are waiting for the ambulance to show up.
Right. So she calls her contact, Miss Cranston. That's the person Coyle assigned to her, right? And she asks Miss Cranston to send an ambulance to the mayor's house. And Miss Cranston says, I'll do that. Anything else? Tell Coyle the job's done. The second this phone call is over.
There's a Lady Gaga song for this whole thing. She sings, "My biggest enemy is me, Papa 911."
Papa 911.
And Papa another one. No, but seriously.
Yeah.
Good job, Taylor. Your biggest enemy is you.
She gets in contact with Genesis using her bugs and basically says the job's done, Trickster's hurt, and I have him. Can you come pick him up? Right? Because she basically
I take it the play date didn't end well.
definitely
That's
did.
what I would have answered. If somebody had called me and told me this, I'm like, so I take it the play date didn't end well. I guess we're not coming back. I'm sorry. I'm just
Poor
always
Trickster.
a jokester.
Yeah, when Genesis shows up, she's just like, Where's Trickster? She asked. And Taylor brings him down. He's strapped to Atlas's back, like tied there with thread. And she basically says, I can't carry him all the way back.
So, I put him on the hood of my vehicle like a surfboard.
Yep, basically. Tied him to the top of my car roof.
Yeah, kind of.
Also,
there's something very comical about this.
Taylor's thinking to herself, also, if I'm on foot, I'm going to be vulnerable to attacks or from Prism's reinforcements.
I see the paranoia hasn't worn off.
Oh, it definitely hasn't.
Never try weed, Tay-Tay. It's not going to be good for you.
So Taylor basically convinces Genesis to make a new body, even though, and Genesis is just like, oh, well, all right, fine, but it's going to take me a while, right?
Make a new body for what?
One that can carry Trickster.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And Taylor says, okay, you go make the new body. I'll meet you at the end of this glade. Let's see. There's some scene setting, like as she's running through the glade. She thinks a little bit about how she liked running. And for months, she'd used running as a way to forget about whatever was plaguing her, right?
You know, it's funny. You remember back at the beginning of the pandemic where I joked about how Taylor clearly was a monster because she was waking up at 7 a.m. to go running? Guess who runs all the time now? That's right, me. I also thought, like, you know what? Maybe she's onto something. Maybe this is a great way to run away from my problems. That didn't actually make me run any faster. It just made me upset when I slowed down. So now I have rediscovered my love for punk rock music, and you know, I guess what I do now, because I'm a fucking weeb, is to put on punk rock music, J-rock for best effects, and well, I like J-rock actually. I like the chord progressions and the compositions. I actually really just like Japanese music, but I like to put on Japanese music and pretend I'm in that running scene of every anime opening while there's text going around me. I don't know. It makes me feel young again, okay? I'm an old crusty woman.
Okay, come on. Even old crusty women can run in an anime opening scene.
So long as their hands are out behind them like it's Naruto.
Yes, perfect.
I guess are there old women like me in anime?
If there aren't, there should be.
That would be nice.
Oh, there's To Your Eternity. There was an old woman in that opening.
Okay, I'm not that old. I think Pioran's like 90 something.
Yeah, she's like ancient.
She's literally my grandmother's age.
Yeah. Right. She thinks to herself, it was a way to forget about things, right? Before it had been the bullying, then it had been the pressures of dealing with the Undersiders, separating from my dad, Dina, the fallout from the Endbringer attack, Coil.
That's the other difference. When I go running, I don't think about like running away from my problems. I think about charging forward. I prefer to face my problems. I do.
That makes sense. It's very like it is kind of like a very
it's a different
interesting comparison.
It's a different way of dealing with it, because like I actually prefer to deal with my problems head on, because I've noticed anytime I try to forget about them, they don't really go away. They kind of just fester there. It's like that whole thing of like your mom tells you to clean your room and you shove all your stuff under your bed, and then like 2 weeks later that banana peel that you put under there that you forgot about kind of is rotting and it's smelling, and you're trying to figure out what the problem is, and it's like getting you upset because your room now smells like rotting banana. It's that sort of thing, right? Like I realized that, you know, like even when I was her age, actually, I would prefer to face my problems head on. I actually didn't like being a girl very much, because I noticed girls have this thing where, like, you know, psychologically, the mean girls thing, right? Where you get all psychological on each other. And I was drawn to shonen manga because I was like, why couldn't I have been born a boy? Why couldn't I have had a dick when I was born? Because then I could just punch away my problems. You could deal with it by talking about things. Instead, you know, you're not really allowed to talk about things. So my approach is very different from hers. I don't know what to say about exposure therapy because I'm not a psychiatrist, but I do think I think cinema therapy covered this in their Fury Road episode. That actually, in a lot of cases, you want to like face the thing that's bothering you because you need to deal with the thing that's bothering you.
And ideally, you face it in a controlled setting with a professional.
Right. In an environment that's healthy for you, in a way that you can handle it bit by bit.
But constantly running away, that's just bad.
No,
right?
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah.
You're not going to ever address the things that are bothering you. You won't be able to fix it. Like I noticed, you know, whenever I have like a mess up at work or I have a problem that I'm dealing with, I always feel better if I manage to find a way to fix the problem. And if I don't, it actually makes me feel a lot better when I can, I guess, come up with a strategy to deal with it the next time. Sometimes you have to cut your losses. Like, okay, that went bad, but that already happened. Let's make sure we don't let this happen again. Like, I think Taylor's doing that, but without any of the actual, like, facing your problems. I don't think burying things is good, you know?
It really isn't. About it. Like, she really hasn't confronted or resolved any of this guilt, right?
I don't think she has confronted a single one of her issues. Actually, she ran away from Danny too.
Like, and here's the thing: she's bringing up all of these things that have happened to her recently, right? Literally, just now, bullying, dealing with the Undersiders, separating from her dad, Dina, Endbringer, Coil, right?
And what is the commonality with the bullies? She ran away, right? No, that's what literally what they're saying, right? Yeah, that she ran away from the bullies.
The Undersiders? She left the Undersiders.
Yeah. Taylor's way of dealing with everything is to literally not deal with it and run away.
Separating from her dad.
She left her dad. That was a big chapter I think everybody was interested in talking about.
Yeah. Dina, I guess she's not necessarily running away from it, but the way she's
kind of scuttling
fixing it,
She's scuttling around. She's not facing it head on.
Isha Moradin says 7 a.m. stream is a bold choice.
7 a.m.
7 a.m. for you. It's like
it's 11 p.m. here.
11 p.m. here.
Hello from San Francisco.
Hello.
I didn't go out today because I wanted to go out to karaoke, but the numbers are so high right now. I decided
we decided we had to be safe.
We got McDonald's and we're sitting at home.
Yeah. Isha says, I don't think people bury things as a long-term choice. It's just a stopgap measure that ends up being applied a lot. I agree.
Well,
and you have to keep in mind that all of this stuff happened in the span of like 2 months, I think? 2.5 months?
Whoa, that's still a long... Okay, to me, that's still a very long time to bury things.
I
can't bury things for more than 2 days!
I need to pull up like a timeline or something like that. But all of this happened really quickly.
All the more reason to not bury it. Like, I can't bury things for 2 months. For me, that's too long.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually... You saw how stressed out I was when I tried to extend it that long. Remember at work?
Yeah. But also,
I lost my fucking mind and tried to kill myself.
Also, you had downtime to process this stuff, and I'm not sure if Taylor did. Like, literally, there was life or death stuff happening almost all the time.
Well, Bo, this one's on you.
Right.
What a cruel and fickle god.
Isha says, hello from Liverpool, England.
Oh, it is 7 a.m. Why are you awake? It's Sunday.
Uh-huh. Oh, Tower makes a good point. Dead anime moms are older women.
I look very good with that haircut, by the way. The dead anime mom's haircut.
Dead anime mom.
I posted a picture of myself on Facebook once, like just a selfie while I was like cleaning the house. And my friend immediately writes, you look like take that scrunchie off right now. That's the dead anime mom haircut. And I was like, oh shit, he's right. I pulled off the scrunchie so fast.
Oops.
Oh, but you know, I'm not having kids. And I don't have any pets either, so I'm free.
Yeah.
I'm home free.
I'm going to continue.
I have the alcoholic aunt haircut right now.
Doesn't look bad. It looks good.
Yep, I'm the alcoholic aunt.
So, Taylor continues to think to herself, the times I hadn't run, I'd felt like I was losing my mind. Was it just that the moments I was unable to run were the same moments I was under the most stress?
Has it really been only 2 months? Has it been 2 months since she killed Lung? Or not killed Lung, deballed him?
Let's say since she met Lung. And met the Undersiders.
Has it really been
Maybe it's 2 not 2 months. It's probably been
a little tight.
Can someone look up the timeline for me? Thank you.
Thank you.
So, when the Slaughterhouse 9 had been in town, when I'd been living in the shelters...
How long were they in town? For like 2 weeks?
The Slaughterhouse 9 was in town for probably 2 weeks, I think.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
So this has to have been more than a month.
I think more than a month for sure.
Sorry, more than 2 months.
There was a little bit of a time skip. I think like a 2 or 3 week time skip between the Leviathan attack and Taylor's reappearance.
Okay, but that's also... So we're at like 4 or 5 months now.
Probably.
No, sorry, 4 or 5 weeks now. So the 2 month thing seems a little...
The Bakuda event, like the bombings, that happened for at least a week, I think.
Right? I'm like, okay, the timeline seems...
Yeah.
It seems 2 months seems like it's not very much.
We'll see, yeah. Anyway, so Taylor basically thinks that it's good that she can just run now. She can focus on breathing, on putting each foot exactly where it needed to be, on keeping my balance, and letting my subconscious guide me through the woods. And then I felt vaguely disappointed when I reached the point where the small forest ended and the roads began. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to step back into the city and face everything. The threats on my life from an employer who divided and pruned realities was only a small part of that.
I want to divide and prune realities.
It would be nice. I would have left if I could afford to. If Dina and my people could afford for me to.
Keep telling yourself that.
Yeah.
See,
April 10th through 11th, Taylor fights Lung and meets the Undersiders and Armsmaster. June 17th is when she threatens the mayor.
So 3 months.
3 months. So, yeah, it's fair to not have all this trauma processed yet.
Yes, yes, okay, but the hell? So we had Leviathan and the Slaughterhouse 9 within the span of like a few weeks of each other?
Yeah, you have to keep in mind that the Slaughterhouse 9 came because Leviathan had ravaged the city. And they realize, oh, this is a playground for us. This should be fun.
I don't know what to say about all this. Just like, okay, wow. You know, condemning Brockton Bay sounds a little conservative right now. I say nuke the place. Make sure no one can ever come here because clearly this ground is cursed.
It wasn't nuked, but Pago did drop a bunch of bucket of bombs.
No, they should have nuked it. Oh my god, condemning it is just condemning it. That's so sweet.
Yeah. Oh,
do you wrap?
It's 2 months, not 3.
April to June. Oh, I heard July. I'm sorry.
Yeah, April to June. Yep.
Listen, condemning this town seems very conservative. I think you need to wipe it off the face of the earth. Brockton Bay is clearly cursed. Like, what are those things called? Ghostbusters. Ley lines? Ley lines. It is the convergence of every motherfucking ley line in the universe. And you know what? It needs to be wiped off the face of the earth. Just get rid of Brockton Bay. This land is cursed. I don't know how many like massacres of like natives or, you know, whatever happened here. I don't know. This is a vortex of evil. It needs to be like just wiped off the face of the earth. Like, let me ask you something. Oh, we're gonna condemn Brockton Bay. That's cute. Did you condemn Chernobyl? Do you just wrap some police tape around it, tie it in a bow like your Pearl from Steven Universe, and be like, well, no one's ever gonna go in there again? No, you need to wipe this place off the face of the fucking earth. Get rid of it. Just get rid of it. Get rid of it.
All right. I'm gonna keep going. My bugs found Genesis before she was fully formed. She looked like a bison with wings, but her back had a bowl-shaped depression.
Wait. Isn't that just the Red Bull thing?
I don't know what the Red Bull thing looks like.
It's the Red Bull thing. It's let me find it for you on my phone. Red Bull. Red Bull gives you wings. That one.
Red Bull.
Yeah.
Bull.
Yeah.
Is there a Red Bull bull?
Yes.
Oh.
Oh, I guess
there's no wings.
But they keep saying it gives you wings. It's like the commercials then.
I mean, yeah, but there's no wings.
Petition to make this the new mascot.
Yeah. Bison with wings, bowl-shaped depression on her back, and she had...
bowl-shaped.
Bowl.
Bull. B-U-L-L?
B-O-W-L.
Okay, I'm sorry. I heard bull-shaped depression. I'm just like, oh my god. She's a bull with a bull-shaped depression, and she has wings. This is the best mascot Red Bull could have asked for. That's amazing.
Uh-huh. Yeah, so, and she had stubby little legs and antenna.
A bullfly.
Yep. So Taylor puts Trickster into the
So she has stubby little legs and antenna. Can Taylor control her? Because she's a little bug-like right now.
I don't think Taylor can control just anything that looks like a bug. Power doesn't quite work like that.
That is very disappointing.
You just want Taylor to control everything.
She does at the end.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it'd be kind of cute / funny.
All right.
I just think it'd be really funny.
And then Taylor takes off on Atlas, leaving behind Genesis, and calls Tattletale. Job's done. Already told Coil.
I'm gonna call her Skittles. You know, I'm gonna call her Skittles.
Skittles. Yes.
Oh, that's a great name. I'm gonna call her Skittles.
Yeah. Tattletale asks, "Are you still there at the mayor's place?" "No, just left." There was a pause. "That doesn't make sense," she told me. "What doesn't?" "We're clear to talk. No bugs, I'm 99% sure. So listen, if Coil wanted to assassinate you, that'd be his chance. Once you leave the mayor's property, that's it. He doesn't know where you're going." So, yeah, Tattletale is confused. And Taylor says maybe Trickster was supposed to hurt me because he got hurt and couldn't do it instead. And Tattletale says, no, that doesn't feel right. Why wouldn't Coil have a backup? Taylor says maybe Dina's power is working and he's using it for something. He's got a bigger plan in mind. And she's just like, no, that doesn't fit either, right? So Tattletale says, listen, I'm going to try to find out more. I'll call you back. And, Taylor shows a little bit of, like, worry. It's just like, oh, I don't like that you're there without backup. You said you might want to get rid of you too. I don't know if he does. Like, you knew he'd try to kill me? Another pause. I'll call you later, she said. The line went dead. So, yeah, Tattletale's confused here. Because Taylor was supposed to be assassinated at the mayor's place. And there was no attempt. Yep. So, Taylor thinks to herself...
Listen, don't look a gift bowl in the mouth. Hey, see what I did there?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm funny. It's all I have left. At least I think I'm funny.
Yeah. So Taylor does touch base with Genesis and says, okay, I'm going to head back to my territory, which is a lie. She also talks with Genesis a little bit about Trickster. Where basically Taylor asks, why did he pick a fight like that? And Genesis says, it's how he operates. I'm not saying this is usual or that this wasn't an extreme case, but it's always how he dealt with things, big or small. Like, the worse things get, the more stubborn and cocky he gets. And it worked when we were just messing around.
Like the opposite of Taylor?
Kind of.
That's what I was just talking about. Listen, I said you should face your problems head on. I didn't say you should do this.
Right?
I didn't say you should pufferfish it. I said you should deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, Trickster pufferfishes. Taylor...
Yeah, I know. It's just
I
like
don't know what Taylor
no,
does.
but I just think it's really funny because I was like looking at what Taylor's doing, and I'm just like, oh, sweetie, you have to face your problems head on. And they're like, look at Trickster. He faces his problems so head on that he kind of bashes his own head in. And I was like, okay, and you just took my advice and like, it's perfect, this React, because they just took my advice and twisted it, and it was like, okay, wait, no, in moderation, this is not what I meant. This is not what I meant when I said you need to deal with your problems. We said controlled environment with professionals. Yes, we did.
Yeah.
Not this.
There's no professionals here.
We're not saying that. How old is Trickster? 17?
I think he's about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a
We didn't
teenager
say
still.
to just bust in.
Yeah.
God, I do not miss. You know, every time I watch, like, you know, if I watch something like My Hero Academia, I'm just like, youth. I miss being young. I miss being able to, like, you know, write my own story and have my whole life ahead of me. And I look at this and I'm just like, youth, how I hated it. This is why I burned all my diaries.
I liked being young, though. Okay.
What did you like about it?
What I like about it? Less responsibilities.
I liked being able to... oh my god. I had so much pressure on me that when I finally became, like, when I finally had my doctorate, I was like, oh, finally, now I just have to deal with my job, not the constant looming threat of failure. This is way easier.
Okay, I can see why you don't miss... I can see why you don't miss it.
No, seriously, like, having your parents going over your shoulder being like, if you mess up even this one little thing, your future is ruined.
Yeah.
Yeah, try dealing with that every single day for 18 years. That wasn't great.
All right.
18? Did I say 18? I meant 22 years.
22.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to speed along, but Tower reminds us that Taylor controls any normal arthropods, including crabs, and Isha is sad that there was no dramatic March of the Crabs moment. I'm sad too.
I'm sad too.
Yeah. So Genesis continues, it worked when we were just playing around, but we were never suited to be, I don't know, a family? A family? We've spent 2 years together with just each other. I don't know what you could call us if not that. Well, why don't you quit or split up? Is it Noelle? She's only half of it, Genesis said. She didn't volunteer anything more. And then Genesis basically...
Oh, right. So she's alluding to the fact that they got isekai'd.
Yep. That they're kind of stuck together because they want to get home together.
So this is like the bad... This is like... I can't believe I'm saying this. This is the bad version of Grimgar.
Yeah.
This is even worse than Grimgar.
Where like your found family is a group of people you hate. Yeah.
Right? Because I'm like, see, in Grimgar, somebody dies really early, but like the rest of them, everyone who got left behind, banded together. This is like, they're gamers, right?
Yep.
So wouldn't this just not be too different than like your coworkers?
Yep. Or just like your high school buddies, but like now you and your high school buddies are...
My high school buddies split in college.
Exactly, right? And also, you didn't live together and like have to work together on everything, and
Oh my lord. I would have gotten fucking assassinated
right.
after a week. It did not go well. These were going to be my bridesmaids. It did not end well.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't even take very long.
But yeah, Genesis comes to Trickster's defense a little bit. She says, just don't blame him. I'm sorry things got so bad tonight. Anyway, so Taylor says, okay, can you go to the base by yourself? I'm going to head back to my territory. I lied. And so Taylor thinks to herself, where should she go? She could be walking into a trap if she goes back to her territory. Going back to any familiar place, Coil might have enough soldiers, like just waiting for her. But also, if she broke pattern and stayed somewhere off his radar, she'd be letting him know that she was suspicious. So she came to a decision.
She's being paranoid again.
I mean, yeah.
Okay, go on.
She's gonna be paranoid. So she comes to a decision. She sets Atlas down on a tall building, and then she sends a bunch of bugs into her base to retrieve all of the things she wants.
She's running away again.
Yep. And then
she's running away again. Oh my god. Hey.
She flies Atlas. Oh, hold on. Oh yeah, and then she gets lowered to the street on Atlas, and then decides to walk the rest of the way. And the place that she walks to, she actually reflects a little bit about how nature is reclaiming things. Yeah, you know what? This might be something we could dive into. I don't know if you're interested in this paragraph,
go for it. But your interest piques my interest.
It was funny how nature reclaimed this world in its own way. It was silly to say humans were destroying the environment. We were simply changing it.
Disagree.
Nature would persevere until the world was a barren wasteland.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever apocalypse Jack was supposed to set in motion, I suspected
That's the thing about nature. If humans hadn't gotten... My personal belief is that if humans don't get involved, it never becomes a full wasteland.
Mm-hmm.
Also, that wasteland, calling it a wasteland from humans' perspective is also very... It's a bit subjective. I mean, the thing is, I guess that we were simply changing the environment. I really don't know about that because, like, we're changing it irreversibly right now.
I agree.
With
that, at least. It's irreversible change, but I think the sentiment here is that you can't destroy nature. Right? You can, like...
Tell that to the asteroids.
There.
It is possible for planets to be destroyed.
That is true. But we survived an asteroid, didn't we? I mean, not us, but, like, the Earth.
You know, after watching that video, I'm actually on, like, what happened with the asteroid hit. I'm really surprised we did, actually, as a planet. It's pretty stunning.
And yet, life still flourishes.
It almost makes me want to revise my belief in in some kind of a god. Like, but... Yeah, some crazy things happened. Let's say we had the snowball Earth thing. I did take a little bit of evolutionary bio. Like, there's the snowball Earth. There's the oxygen crisis, where, like, you know, there's so much plant life that they took all the CO2. They made, like, a shitload of oxygen, and then there was, like, so much oxygen, and then the oxygen, no creatures could metabolize it, so they all died, and then, like, oxygen metabolizing life appeared.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was fucking crazy.
Like I said, this is what I mean by life, by nature. Persevering, right? Here, let me read the rest of this to you, and let's keep talking, okay? I suspected Jack was right in what he'd said to Bonesaw. Something would undoubtedly survive, and this sort of thing would likely happen across the world, starting in the cracks, spreading out, only to overwhelm and bury the ruins of civilization.
Yeah, I'm thinking Oobleck with googly eyes at this point.
This
makes me this just makes me think Oobleck with googly eyes.
Oobleck?
Oobleck.
Oobleck?
Yeah, Oobleck. You know, the stuff that you make in, like, science class when you learn about colloids.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, like, we can, like, you and I have very different outlooks on life, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I tend to be very optimistic.
And I become a nihilist.
And you're very nihilistic.
A very happy nihilist.
And we can both agree that we are quote unquote destroying the environment, right? Or irreversibly changing it in a damaging and harmful way, right? But I think I like this paragraph because it really does have this sense of hope to it.
I think it's cute, but also if you look at, I guess I'm thinking of the planet Venus for runaway greenhouse effect. Also Mars.
That like it's so easy, very easy for us to end up like that, right?
Pretty much.
To end up like Venus or to end up like Mars.
Yeah, there's nothing alive on there. There's nothing alive.
Yeah.
So,
but
that's
for the
why I'm
time
just
being,
kind of like,
for the time being, we are still here.
I guess so.
Yeah.
I mean, for the time being. Go on.
I stopped, now not out of hesitation, but nostalgia. The wooden staircase in front of me had rotted out on the bottommost step. Not recent, not a fault of Leviathan or the city's conditions. Older. I skipped past it and headed up the front door and rang the bell.
Yeah, that piece of wood is older than I am.
My heart pounded. I tried not to think about anything particular. Didn't want to chicken out.
Where's she going?
The door opened, and I found myself face to face with my dad.
Oh my god, is she actually facing her problems? Did she go back to one? Why is she going back to Danny?
Good question.
She ran home?
She went home. She didn't know where to go. She didn't want to go back to her territory or to her usual places. So she went home to
Aww.
Dad. It took all the courage I had not to turn around and run.
You know, this is very human. I think it was Hussein. It was like students who were like, I think it was a bunch of college students who were using, I think, certain data sets to find, I think, Saddam Hussein when he was like hiding in the hole. It was Hussein or Obama. I can't remember. Or no, I'm so sorry.
What?
Osama.
What the fuck?
I'm sorry. I'm so tired. I'm really sleepy. Oh, like Osama bin Laden.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of those two. I can't remember who, but I think it had to have been Hussein. But he was hiding in like a little hidey hole in like a little cave pothole sewer thing in his hometown. Like the students had figured it out, and it just kind of makes sense that like, you know, at the end of all things, you want to go home. That's very human.
Yeah.
That's a good moment.
You mind if I dive more into detail in the section and just read it straight?
Okay.
All right. It took all the courage I had not to turn around and run. I was such a coward. I've been like this with school. I'd stopped going to classes for reasons that were more or less reasonable in the moments I'd made the decision. And somewhere along the line, I'd continued to avoid school because I didn't have the courage to own up to my previous absences.
Ooh, she went hikikomori.
Only, this wasn't school. It was my dad. He still had marks all over his body where the glass had cut him. Dried scabs and lines and circles all over his face and arms. He had one large bandage on his shoulder. Shouldn't he have healed by now? Or had it been that bad? It's good to see you, he said. His forehead was creased in concern. You hurt? I looked down at the sling. It's not major. Is it why you... He said, stopping himself as he didn't want to jinx things and scare me off with a poor choice of words. No, I said. I found myself searching for an explanation, opening my mouth to respond, and then closing it when that explanation didn't readily come. He's my boy, I could imagine the mayor's voice, the pain and raw emotion I'd heard. I only ever wanted what was best for him. I just had to look my dad in the eyes, and I could see that same expression in my dad's eyes. No, I said again. I just saw someone nearly lose her daughter. It made me think of you and Mom. I changed the genders on the spur of the moment, to be safe. As if I'd prodded a wound, I could feel that deep-seated ache from earlier come alive. I wanted to look away, but I forced myself to meet my dad's eyes. Do you, he said, pausing, want to come in? I nodded. So, skip this paragraph. The last time I'd really been able to look around the house had been the start of May, nearly 2 months ago. I looked at I looked at the mantelpiece above the fireplace. Things had been rearranged. There was a small clock with a broken face, a family picture of Dad, Mom, and me, a little statue candlestick featuring a woman with a flowing dress. I touched the statuette. There were memories there. Too many things in the house had them. The statuette was part of a pair. Where's the husband statue? Were you robbed? I looked at him, and he looked embarrassed. I
He
traded
shoved that up his butt. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I traded it away. More than a few things. Why? For what? Selling and bartering for food, he answered. But there's supplies. Did you not get enough? Or... I trailed off. Why was I attacking him? Accusing him? Was it guilt?
Yeah.
Failing to look after my dad and make sure he got the supplies he needed?
Yep.
The explosion with the glass. I suffered some minor kidney damage. The doctor advised me to up my iron and protein intake while we wait to see if it'll scar. Not nutrients you find in good supply. Kidney damage. Is that the worst injury? You're otherwise okay? I'm mostly okay. Better than most, thanks to the warning you gave me about the Slaughterhouse 9 being in town. Some of my coworkers owe you thanks as well. I nodded.
Oh.
I was glad people were okay, but the fact that word was spreading, it put me in a dangerous spot. But I should be the one asking how you're doing. What happened to your arm?
That's...
Foreign body got trapped in there at some point, I said. Needed...
Why is that so funny? That's such a Taylor way of saying
Right? It's just so vague.
Foreign body got trapped in the arm. Like, I would not write this in my notes at work because I'd be like, what foreign body? Where?
Yeah. Needed minor surgery. I could see the alarm crossing over his face. Had he heard something? Flechette passing on a message that people with injured shoulders... Surgery? He asked. It was only local...
Tay-Tay, seriously.
It was only local anesthetic, really. Not that big of a deal.
No, it's actually a pretty big deal considering like she doesn't feel pain.
Right. Also, she requested local anesthetic when the medic wanted to put her under. So
I don't know what to say to that because sometimes the patients ask for local anesthetic when we want to put them under, and then later they tell me, Doc, they took out my wisdom teeth. I heard the most horrible crunching sounds, and I was like, well, they offered to put you under. They're like, I didn't think it was gonna be this bad, and I'm just like, I mean, I don't know what to tell you, man.
yeah. Isha says, classic Taylor. Tells Dad she had surgery, sees his alarm, and assumes it's cape related.
Yep.
Yeah.
Classic Taylor. Cue laugh track.
So Taylor kind of looks through the bookshelves, looks at a picture of Mom and herself. And then Danny says, "You're so different. You're standing straighter, dressing like you aren't trying to hide in your clothes.
Oh!
Moving with more purpose. I think you've grown, too."
Grown taller?
Well, he probably.
I mean, kids do that.
Yeah, kids do that. So many people. They seem like they've been burdened by what's going on. They've given up a little, lost important things. That just makes the contrast between you and them that much stronger.
I don't know what to say about this.
What do you mean?
I mean, I'm surprised at the description because, I mean, honestly, it's weird because on the inside, Taylor sounds like a mess.
Yeah.
So the fact that, like, Danny looks at her and it's just like, oh my gosh, you've grown up, I'm so proud. He's doing this, oh my gosh, you've grown up, I'm so proud of you. I'm just like, wait, hey, are you that good at pretending? Like, it's really weird.
I do wonder about that because if you think about Taylor at the start of the story who is bullied versus Taylor now who is not
running
bullied,
away from her problems,
but dealing with a lot of guilt, but also
not dealing with her problems. Go on.
Yeah, she's kind of not dealing with her problems, but she's kind of dealt with a lot of other people's problems. Just now, Danny mentioned that Taylor helped him and his co-workers with the Shatterbird warning, right? But she also saved a lot of other people from Shatterbird's attack. She also fought the Slaughterhouse 9. She also protects the people in her territory. Like, in a way, this is a passage pointing out how much Taylor has changed for the better.
I guess so. It still feels really weird, though, because, like, I mean, most people, when they're overburdened like this, you can tell. They don't look well. So I almost feel like there's something strange about this because there's almost an implication that like this is healthy for her and that she's doing
Oh,
well.
it's not healthy for her, but I'm going to say that this situation, surprisingly, is healthier than her school situation.
Really?
Yes, really.
I guess.
Like, when she was bullied in school, she felt powerless and unable to do anything, right?
Right.
And now, even though she's racked with all sorts of moral dilemmas and guilt and like responsibilities, like she has gained the confidence and the will to move forward.
Sure. I guess the other reason why this makes me feel weird is that the implication almost seems to be that, like, Taylor, you're doing the right thing. This villainy thing is good. Like, she's this, you know, if this were me, I would hear all of this and dig my heels in deeper to do the wrong things for the right reasons.
Mm-hmm.
That's the effect it would have on me.
And that's probably a bad idea. Yeah.
I think that's bad. Like, this is like like narratively, like, this isn't necessarily a criticism of Bo necessarily, because I don't know. I don't feel like it's right for me
I think the way this story is designed is that Taylor is using her superhero life or supervillain life as an escape, right? This is a power fantasy for her.
I guess, but what kind of a power fantasy makes you feel awful about yourself?
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing I want to know. Like, is this really a... Listen, if I'm going to sit there and daydream, I'm going to fantasize about things that make me feel good and happy, not things that make me feel bad.
Yeah.
You know?
Fair.
It's really weird. It's like, okay, sure, she's done some great things, but like I said, when I have moments of self-doubt, like, and you point out the things that I've done, I'm not really doing so under the guise of villainy. I'm not wearing that badge. And also, I have done things in a way where I have not hurt anybody. Or at least I try to minimize the kind of damage that I'm doing and the amount of pain that I'm dealing. Like, listen, it's my job. I deal with pain. Unfortunately, I have to give you a shot to pull out your tooth. You don't want me to give it to, you don't want me to pull out your tooth without Novocaine or lidocaine. It's that sort of thing, right? So I feel like it's sending this is really weird for me, because, and it sticks out because it seems to me like it's sending a mixed message. I mean, I get that you guys are going to fight me and say that it's not, but I feel like Worm has like a lot of mixed...
Here's the thing. It's not, it is a mixed message because it's trying to present multiple sides of a thing.
I know, right? But I guess maybe that's one of the things that I am not sure if I like about Worm. I think I actually don't like it because I feel like it's easier to tell a story from like one side. Like, we just caught up on MHA, where we do see sympathetic villains. However, the narrative very clearly positions us to understand what side is good and what side is evil and why. What makes something good and what makes something evil. The bad guys are sympathetic, but they have things like grudges. They have wires crossed. They have issues that they are refusing to address. I like the way that Horikoshi told that story because it makes a lot of sense. Like, that is the difference between a good guy. That is Horikoshi's answer to what is the difference between a hero and a villain. The answer lies in the choices you make, whether or not to hurt people. And I think that's actually a really good divider because ultimately, I mean, my opinion on humans is that I don't think that all humans are good. I think that humans want to do the right thing. I think that every human has that drive in them to try to do the right thing. Unfortunately, we are a very selfish and stupid and misguided species. We do not have the intellect to actually always do the right thing, like just collectively as a whole. And that's why, like, as a species, we're not really able to do that. We're here, like, pondering these questions of good versus evil and floundering every step of the way. Every single person, no matter how much education, no matter how much information gets passed to them, has to flounder with it in their own way. I think we're kind of a terrible species in a way. But this argument feels really, again, this passage just really sticks out at me because the story has always just been a little bit muddled to make you question. I mean, I almost feel like the whole point of Worm is to refuse to give you an answer as to what is good and what is bad. And that
I think I agree with you there.
Like, I feel like Worm refuses to pick a side, and that actually kind of bothers me.
I don't think it necessarily refuses to pick a side. It's just saying that there's never a clear answer to what's right or wrong.
And the thing is, I actually don't think I like that. I have a certain set of morals, and I have a certain set of ideals and codes and whatever. We all do. But the thing is, I feel like for humans, most of us can agree on things that are right and wrong. Most of us can agree that lying is not a good thing, for instance, but it can be done for a good reason, to spare somebody pain. Like this is why I like Horikoshi's answer a lot. Pain we all think of as a bad thing,
Right.
unless you have a very specific kink, but that's something different. There are boundaries for that, right? Pain we all understand as a bad thing, and I think, unless you have like some kind of a like something that's classifiable in like the DSMV. I know there's people don't at me, don't controversy me on this one. Unless you have a certain type of psychological issue that makes you unable to understand, most people think that pain is a bad thing and that people should be reducing the amount of pain in other people's lives. That pain and suffering are the kinds of things that we should all work towards eliminating for all people, be that physical or psychological. And I guess I don't really like this idea of like refusing to answer the question, because I mean, to me, the more of this we're diving into, the more of the long arc of the story I'm seeing, Taylor is actually a villain through and through.
Yeah.
She is not thinking for the better good. She says she is, but over and all, like, again, this is one of my personal feelings, is that your actions speak louder than your words. Taylor is at every step of the way choosing to hurt people. She's saving people, but she's saving people for her own, like, I think in Japan, like, I feel like they throw this word around a lot in anime, like egoist. You're doing something to soothe your own self and soothe your own conscience. Ultimately, that is a selfish act. You say that you're helping other people, but all of this time you keep hurting people. She almost just killed someone.
Yeah. Oh, Isha has a few things to say, add. Regarding the way Taylor is appearing to her dad, she's a mess, but she sublimates it hard and presents a strong front, primarily a skitter, but it bleeds into her unmasked persona too. So maybe part of that is just she's used to portraying Skitter at this point.
I guess, but I don't know. God, I can't even remember. I think my train of thought got cut off. It's gone.
Fair.
It'll come back.
I hope. And then the other thing was, you mentioned that pain being universally bad. Maybe
most people think it's a bad
Isha
thing.
says maybe suffering rather than pain.
Suffering, okay.
Yeah. But
right.
I think suffering might be a better word choice, but
right,
like
but that's
same idea.
Even if you look at people who have been led astray by misinformation, right? They are still part of the reason why people spread misinformation and disinformation is they do so out of good intent. They genuinely, except for maybe the original charlatans who came up with this information, and even some of the charlatans may be drinking their own Kool-Aid. There's most of the people who spread this sort of thing think that they are doing a good thing. They think, like, let's talk about COVID for a sec. Like, at the very beginning, we had no information. This was a brand new virus. Nobody knew anything. And so misinformation, these little rumors, these stories, this is all anyone had. This is kind of what happened during the SARS pandemic or epidemic in China. There was no information. The government locked everyone down. And so in an attempt to protect themselves and others, good intent, people spread misinformation. But again, that's sort of the core of it. Like, your choices really do matter. And I feel like that's actually the difference between the heroes and the villains here. The heroes try to navigate this pathway. The rules aren't arbitrary. The heroes are actually trying to navigate a path of, I guess, not least resistance, but least suffering. They're trying to do things the right way, and the right way involves hurting the least amount of people. Like, what would make the difference? Like, see, if I went dark, I would just, if I went dark, the worst thing that I could be doing as a practitioner would be straight up lying to the patients because I knew more than they did. Like, if I lied to people and told them, like, I'm a trusted source. If I lied to people to get them to, I guess, make the kinds of choices that I believed was correct, I would be in the wrong here. That's the wrong thing to do. Ultimately, like, you have to let the patients make their own decisions, even if sometimes they're a little pig-headed. Right. Because that's the idea. We all have these sort of like rights.
You can't force your choices onto other people, right?
Pretty much.
And that's kind of Taylor's flaw, right?
Right.
Because she always thinks this is the thing that's right. Everyone else needs to fall in line.
Pretty much. And she won't listen to people who are questioning this. And like, the more I think about this, the more I'm like, Taylor is actually a villain. Yeah. I don't even want to say that she's morally gray anymore. She is morally gray. She's conflicted in certain ways, but Taylor's very much a villain. I think at this point I've made my decision. And I guess my decision is aided by the fact that you've given me the spoilers.
Right.
That her ultimate choice was to take away everyone else's autonomy to achieve her means. Did she save the world? Yes, but you did it in the worst way possible.
Okay. Actually, let's pause there for a moment, because Worm likes to make a distinction between heroes, villains, and monsters. 3 categories, not just 2.
Okay.
Do you think Taylor's a villain or a monster?
Well, I'd say villain.
Okay.
Villain, because I think to be like an actual monster, like that's like Leviathan, for instance.
Leviathan
right?
and monster.
It seems to me like the monsters in Worm don't have a very strong sense of like self-awareness or consciousness.
What about Jack Slash? Villain or monster?
I actually want to say villain because again, I feel like the distinction here is that the villains here make decisions. I'd say Bonesaw is closer to monster turf, at least for me, because she seems to lack like what is the difference between a dog and a human, for instance?
Right.
Like Bonesaw seems to lack a sort of understanding that a lot of humans possess. Jack, I think, has that understanding. I think Jack is very consciously aware of the things that he does and the harms he perpetuates, but he doesn't care.
Right.
He is aware, but he doesn't care. That's what I think makes Jack a villain and Bonesaw a monster. Bonesaw does not understand. And if Jack has anything to say about it, she never will. She's no different than his attack dog, isn't she? She's like a pit bull.
Right.
That he has trained for a fight. She's, you know, like, I mean, people will hate me for this sort of thing, but I don't really see, like, I feel like, say, a 2-year-old child and 2 to 3-year-old child, depending on the child, and maybe like a 12, 14-year-old dog perhaps have the same amount of, like, intelligence at that point in time. You know? Like, that's the whole thing about kids, right? They're impressionable. They don't understand things.
Right.
Like, I think to have, like, and this is why we don't allow children to vote or drive cars or drink or anything. Well, drink's different, but that's physical. But, you know, this is why we don't allow, like, people under a certain age to make certain decisions, because developmentally and also experientially, like life experience, they don't have enough to make these decisions. So I think that's the difference for me. How conscious of the decisions you are making are you?
Okay, I think we're going on a long tangent.
It's an interesting one.
It's
though.
an interesting
I mean, it's
tangent.
still kind of worm. It's still worm related.
It is very worm related. This is Worm, essentially.
Yeah.
And like, you say you don't like Worm because it presents things in a morally gray light.
I don't like the fact that Worm kind of refuses to answer the question that it itself poses.
You know
That's
what?
just a preference for me. I don't like that sort of thing in a narrative.
Enough. I think Wildbow deliberately is trying to straddle the line between...
I don't think he's straddling the line, actually. I think Worm is basically just a giant world-building Worm is pretty much just NE. Completely uncontrolled, metastasizing, proliferating NE. That's all it is.
For
NE for...
extroverted intuition. Yeah.
That's all it is. It's just brainstorming. It's just brainstorming abstract concepts and stretching that as far as it goes without actually like fully zooming in to like close the web. Pretty much, it's the brainstorming.
I don't
step.
know about
I don't
that.
like. I don't like
closes
it.
the web eventually.
I don't know, but it still refuses to answer that question at the end.
Well, okay. So then the question is this right or wrong?
Isn't the question like is Taylor a hero or a villain? Isn't that the final question of the series?
I would say, I guess if you consider that the question, then the answer is neither, right?
Your answer is neither. My answer is still she's very much a villain. That was a villain way to solve the world, to save the world.
To save the world.
Yeah, the villain answer is to take over everybody. And what did I say about this? If I was a villain, if I wanted to actually solve all the problems in the world, I would do a Lelouch. I recognize that as being villainy. Because the villains are not bound by their morals. The villains see the morals and they say, fuck it. That's what makes you a villain. And the thing is, in reality, I realize, like, there have been a few instances here and there throughout my career that makes me realize I could never do that. I have made conscious choices to go the other way, to my own detriment, oftentimes. And it's not, and I'm not saying this in a like sacrificial martyring way. I'm saying that I've like lost finances and like, you know, I've turned down jobs. I've been fired from jobs for making decisions not for financial reasons, which my would-be employers would have preferred, that sort of thing. So again, I'm an FI dominant. I operate off of my own moral code first,
Yeah,
and then
and this is your preference for your stories,
for
right?
not even sort of. Well, I guess I like stories where I guess I don't really read a lot of like exploratory tales, much less. I guess if I read exploratory tales, I think a lot of people actually may not like this kind of story, which is why when you go out and you watch like a movie or something that's been produced for TV, usually you have a pretty clean cut like question and answer set.
Instead of this very sprawling piece of work, right?
Pretty much a sprawling thing that's just like, let's just ho-hum ourselves to death, pretty much, you know? So I think it's easier to follow as a narrative when you pose certain sets of questions and then you strongly imply the answers. You don't have to necessarily like fully solve them, but people will come away from the work with a certain feeling. I feel like Worm tries to like straddle the line so hard. I come away from it with like a net neutral, and that actually kind of makes me like go like, yeah, I don't really like it.
There.
Because, and I think this is the reason why a lot of executive producers, for instance, I wonder if this may be one of the reasons why Worm has never made it to Amazon Prime or anything, because perhaps Bo is refusing to answer the question. But what I'm saying, right? Like a narrative question. Maybe this makes it harder for mainstream audiences to follow along, and this could be possible. I wonder, this is just me musing. I wonder if this is part of why it never got picked up, because you would need to answer that question in order to have a satisfying narrative. Like Marvel films, for instance, are really popular, and usually it's not completely clear cut, but quite often, like, it's very, I guess it's much more obvious. You don't really have to like ho-hum yourself to think about what the writers are trying to say. Usually you can get the gist of it within a few episodes or movies, you know?
But there's also a reason why you don't necessarily like Marvel movies.
I mean,
either.
The thing is, I'm just not, like, I guess it's because I'm a hipster, also because I actually really just happen to like East Asian media.
Fair.
That's my preference. Yeah. But, you know, I'm just kind of spouting off on like what my preferences are here, but I think that's one. I'm starting to understand a little bit of why you guys like Worm and why it's not really my cup of tea. I feel like I'm a fundamentally different person than the rest of you, like as far as preferences go.
And that is fine, yes.
Yeah, so I don't know how, I'm starting to wonder like how welcome my opinions continually are, being the kind of person who doesn't like this kind of thing.
We can have our viewers tell us.
I'm just saying, I'm eating, you guys have put, I'm eating this mystery dish, and the more I eat it, the more I realize this is broccoli. I hate broccoli.
Right.
It's taking me a while to get through the layers and get to the act, and for me to like slowly realize, be like, what does this taste? It's so familiar. I'm gonna keep eating it. What is this? I can't tell what it is. Halfway through the bowl, it's broccoli. I've already ingested half the bowl. It's fucking broccoli. I hate broccoli.
Panda doesn't actually hate broccoli.
I actually really like broccoli.
Yeah. But yeah, Isha Moradin says, this is why I like Worm 100 times more than MHA, to be honest. Because MHA is what the kids wish their lives were, and Worm is what they'd be like if they got their wishes.
I guess that's true, that it's a neat narrative. I guess it's true that it's a neater narrative and we don't have that in reality, but I'm going to counter that with this for a sec, because I've learned something very, very important over the last 2 years, and that is the fact that your choices matter. You can create your own narrative. Your narrative doesn't have to be Worm. It doesn't have to be MHA. You get to pick. And that's, I think, the other reason why I'm so frustrated with Taylor. She could have turned this into a different narrative. She did not. These were conscious choices.
And she could have changed course.
She had a lot of opportunities to change course. How many times did she walk away from something only to go further down the path that she didn't understand she was going down? You know? And I think that's something that actually makes me really irritated, because like
she's constantly making choices that are very bad for herself.
She's conscious, right? She's not even, I feel like she's not even fully aware of the choices she's making, and that kind of bothers me.
Yeah. Like,
I don't know. So yeah, I guess maybe this was never going to be my cup of tea, because I do like stories like MHA. I do like, I think, I mean, well, we just caught up on it. I mean, something I said to Namor just now was that like, MHA is an interesting universe. On the one hand, I'm disappointed that Horikoshi didn't go into different directions. On the other hand, I greatly respect him for not doing it, because Vigilantes exists. It's in the same universe, but it answers a different set of questions that the universe poses. And so I'm like, this is actually the really great thing about like world building if you do it right. But this is why I'm glad that Word exists, because I feel like, Worm as itself as a story is possibly a little too clunky. It should just be, this is the universe, like the Marvel universe, for instance, right? Just as a universe.
Right.
It should be one universe, and then we should just have a few short stories for each, like much shorter stories for each character rather than the interludes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would actually be a lot better. If we had, say, Assault and Battery on their own as a whole story.
Right.
Like a whole story, a completely closed story from beginning to end. And then do like Worm, then do Taylor's story, completely closed from beginning to end, have a common through line. That's it. Like these little universes rather than like this giant budding branching thing. It's becoming a little, the way that Worm is constructed, it's too cumbersome for itself. It doesn't hold up under its own weight, in my opinion, just because it's trying to do too much. Just have a bunch of different stories. Like Vigilantes is the story of Crawler and his buds, and like what it's like when you didn't really get into the hero program, but you chart your own path without going that direction. MHA is the like standard hero story, the standard shonen hero story. On the other hand, I could write you in that same universe a very interesting, like, this is actually why I like writing OC fanfic, because I take a universe I really like and I put in a different concept. Like, if you've made an interesting universe, you can create all these different stories, and Wildbow has. But I feel like Worm itself is a little too clunky. It should have just been a bunch of these other little stories, like, here and there.
Okay. Isha wrote a pretty big paragraph, but I'm going to read the first sentence here. I don't feel like the question of Worm is that of hero or villain. It's about the struggle to do the right thing when things get complex and difficult.
And that's the other thing that makes me irritated. Taylor, I feel like she keeps picking to do the wrong thing. It's frustrating. I feel like she does.
Right. But also, a lot of those choices do feel right at the time. Protecting the territory, right?
I make a lot of decisions while I'm drunk that sound right at the time. Let's order that extra package off Amazon. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, again, I have to remind myself, oh, she's a 16-year-old child. At the same time, man, this is fucked. You are handing 16-year-old pubescent, prepubescent children, like, superpowers. That's like if you handed out a driver's license without a test. You just kind of like, it was just, I'm sorry, did I say driver's license? It's like you're handing out war rigs from Fury Road to teenagers. It's like, oh, you got your period? Here you go, have this war rig. That's what this is. Like, no wonder this world is like a fucked up mess. That's what you're doing. You're not even giving people's driver's license tests. It's just like, oh, I guess you're like tall enough. Here, you can drive this thing. I know it's got like spikes on the wheels, but you can handle it.
Yeah, go kill some people.
Go kill, yeah, that's like, what did you think was going to happen? They can try not to kill people and they will kill people.
Right. Yeah. Whew, long tangent. So to sum it up, Taylor's still making the wrong choices. You don't like how
I think
ambiguous this story is, right?
I don't like how ambiguous the story is in conjunction with Taylor making all the wrong choices. I'm not saying that, like, Wildbow's trying to imply that Taylor's right, because that's not it. That's not it. That's not what I'm saying either. Like, but, and then I'm not saying it exonerates it either, but I don't really like the fact that this is kind of presented as, like, a valid choice or, like, an understandable choice, because I'm not saying we shouldn't sympathize with the downtrodden or like people who have been like cast out by society.
Yeah,
but I don't like this I'm actually starting to like this less and less the more this goes on.
Kind of like the summary of Worm is Taylor makes bad choices and it happens to cause some good for people.
Yeah, and I really don't like that as a narrative.
Because you want your protagonist to be making good choices.
I mean, me personally, I do.
Okay.
I mean, again, I tried reading crime. I had to read Crime and Punishment in high school, and the whole time I was griping about the main guy. I was just like, listen, if you can't commit, just turn yourself in, okay? Just, you gotta make your choices and live with them. It's really irritating. What was that thing you said just now? That it just happens to cause some good.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. We have a phrase in Chinese. 瞎猫碰死耗子 The blind cat just happens to bump into a dead mouse. Sheer dumb luck. I'm not saying that that's what this is, but it feels pretty damn close based off what you just said. It's pretty close in a way, narratively. It just happens to do the right thing because that's what the story is. I don't really like that.
Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna finish the rest of this chapter.
Sure.
Yeah.
I guess I like inspirational stories rather than, what if? Listen, if we just what ifed all the time, I would die without understanding anything.
Mm-hmm. All right. What was happening? Danny was complimenting Taylor.
And that just made me just go like, ugh.
I don't feel that much stronger.
No, of course not, because you're Taylor. You can't feel anything good about yourself. You know, if you know what would happen if you actually magically got like a Kardashian body? You would turn around, look in the mirror, and hate yourself for how big your butt has become.
I love you, honey, and we have come here for the Panda rants. But you can't complain about live reads being too long if you spend half an hour on these rants.
It's my live read, and I'll rant if I want to. Anyway.
Right.
Look, I just like I'm so sick of Taylor at this point. So he's like, oh, you've got Danny. Like, listen, this is what happens. Somebody pays Taylor a compliment. She's just like, where? No one's allowed to be complimenting me. Girl, get over it.
I spent 15 years raising you. 2.5 of those years I spent raising you alone. I can see a difference.
She's 17 and a half?
Yeah.
I thought she was 14.
No, she's 16. She's 16.
Didn't he say he spent 15 years?
She's 15 plus, I think.
Okay, so we're subtracting. Got it.
I think so, yeah.
Because I added, and I was just
she's
like,
16.
And I was like ready to flip a table.
No. She's 16, and for 2.5 years, he raised her alone. So since she was 14 or 13, yeah. I'm not saying there isn't a change. There probably is. I just...
Boobies. She's got boobies now.
I don't know if I'm better because of it.
Sorry.
Oh. A silence stretched out.
You don't know if you're better? Wait.
Better because of it.
Danny doesn't know if he's better or she's better.
Taylor's saying this.
Taylor's saying that she doesn't know if she's better.
That there probably is a change, but she doesn't know if she's better because of it.
Yeah, definitely not.
The silence stretched out. Neither of us were adept conversationalists, and any familiarity we'd had was gone. So Taylor sits, and in front of the coffee table, there's a bunch of papers that says, know where you are. They looked as though they had been printed using a 15-year-old photocopier. I picked one up.
Which they probably had been.
Know where you are. The area extending east of Captain's Hill is believed to be underclaimed by the supervillains Gru and Imp. Both are members of the Undersiders, who have joined with the Travelers in an unnamed alliance. These villains will not attack civilians unless provoked, and cleanup is tentatively progressing throughout the area with no objections from either villain. Gru has the blah 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 blah.
They're supervising it.
Yep. I put it down. There was more, noting a lack of information about Imp, as well as the gangs and possible rivals.
Lack of information about Imp. Wow.
Right?
I'm just kind of like, well... There's something just really funny about that Imp. We have no data, and I'm just kind of like, you sent your reporter in, and like, I got nothing.
Mm-hmm. The second paper, know where you are. The area extending west of the ferry station north, including the factories and the remains of the boardwalk, is believed to be underclaimed by the supervillain Skitter. Skitter is an unpredictable young woman, tending towards acts of apparent kindness to those she deems her subjects and bursts of sudden and extreme violence towards those she sees as her enemies. The city is not funding work in her territory, as Skitter is handling matters there. Skitter controls insects and senses what they do. Anyone with allergies to stings or insect bites would be advised to leave this area. She offers food, shelter, and care to anyone who agrees to work under her, but the Dock Workers Association cannot suggest that anyone accepts her offers, as her ulterior motives are unknown.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
There is not water service in this area.
You know, this brings me to a different point. Like, I'm sure, like, what Taylor's feeling is just, oh, why can't anyone see that I'm doing this for the greater good? She says while only narrating things in her head.
Right.
And I'm just kind of like, I can see why it's like, hey, like, it's really funny. Taylor's view of herself and everyone else's view of her is just, like, completely opposite. Just any possible view that she has of herself is going to be the opposite of someone else's. Someone else, like Danny's going to say, oh, you seem to have grown. And Taylor's just like, no. Like, grew. Like, wow, you're really powerful. You took down Mannequin. No, I'm not. Like, she just keeps doing this. And it's just like...
Well, Cherish said it herself. Taylor thinks of herself as a worm.
Listen, I kind of do too. And yet, you know, I've taken this in a completely different direction.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, Taylor, you're a worm. I'm doing the worm. I'm a worm doing the worm. Okay, wow. That's my brand.
Oh, Tower has a comment to what you said earlier about Taylor's boobs getting bigger. Spoiler: Tay stays flat.
I know your struggle, girl. I know. Hey, it's okay. You know what? It's okay if they're flat if you're flat because you know what? Flat boobs don't sag.
Mm-hmm.
They don't
it's
sag.
Good.
It's great. You can wear a string bikini. I did not know this, that like apparently you can't wear string bikinis if your boobs are too big because of the weight.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the itty bitty titty committee would welcome you if I don't know. I don't know if I want you in my tree house.
Again, a little out of date. Our water was running. Still, it was startling to see this here. Taylor thinks to herself that she wanted to keep her home life and her Cape life separate, and it's weird to have this crossover.
Ah, the compartmentalizing again. I almost forgot about that.
Uh-huh.
Ah, Taylor.
So I'm going to summarize this at this point. Taylor talks to her dad about how they've been putting up these posters, and he's just like, yeah, I mean, we want to inform people because if you take a wrong turn, you're going to get cornered by a mutant dog. Right. And then he asks, oh, where are you staying? Right? Like, you're staying with Lisa's family at the North End? How'd you get here? And
yep,
Taylor
she's
says,
staying with Lisa's family at the North End. Yep, that's absolutely what she's doing.
Yep, and Taylor's just like, oh, yeah, I walked across the market, down to the boardwalk, and crossed through Skitter's territory.
Does Danny know she's Skitter?
No, he doesn't. I was pretty sure
What's she wearing right now? She's not wearing her armor?
Yeah, she put on her normal clothes. She grabbed her things from her territory, from her headquarters, and then she put on normal clothes.
She was running away. She's running away from home again.
Yep.
Fucking teenagers. This is why I'm not having kids. I can't deal with this shit, man.
They didn't give you any trouble? They stopped me at the border, and I asked permission. They were nice about it.
Okay, listen, if I heard that, I would be like, you're Skitter, aren't you? Are you fucking serious? Oh, the villains are actually listen, if my kid showed up and it was just like fed me some cockamamie story about no, the villains are actually good people, I'd be like, are you in with them? Wouldn't you? No, seriously, wouldn't you?
Okay. Lie after lie. Another uncomfortable pause.
Then just stop lying if it makes you feel bad. Stop hitting yourself.
Have you eaten? I have some liver and mashed potato in the fridge.
Oh, the answer is no. I don't care how hungry you are. The answer is no.
I've eaten. I lied.
Yeah, here it is acceptable to lie. If your options are mashed potatoes and liver, well, mashed potatoes I love, but the first thing you said was liver. So the answer is no. No.
No use taking some of my dad's money when he was having to sell stuff to get food. Mm-hmm. So...
You know, is Skitter Claus gonna pay him a visit now?
Maybe.
I'm just saying,
no,
like...
probably not.
I just think, like, I guess if Skitter Claus paid him a visit, I would just be like, yep, my daughter's Skitter. Like, I would just...
So, Dad offers to make her some tea, and she accepts, and she looks around the house. It didn't feel like my house anymore. She realizes that everything felt different, things had been moved, Chatterbird's attack had damaged things.
Yeah, I guess you've grown up. I mean,
And
this is what it feels like when you go back to the house, but you've grown up. Like,
yeah,
I felt like this before too.
and when Dad comes back, he's just like, "If you give me a moment, I can make your bed." And she says, "I'm not staying." I blurted the words. Oh, I could see the pain on his face. At this point, Tattletale contacts Skitter on the phone, and she says, "I'll be right back." And she talks to Tattletale, and Tattletale has something interesting to report, which is, it's fine, pretty much, even if he's listening in. You're not in danger. There's no threat on your life at this present moment. Okay? Which scares me, she confessed. And she basically says that that when she was talking to Coil, she realized that he was unconcerned about just about everything that
Ooh,
he had learned.
You should be worried because when I'm unconcerned about everything, like
Everything that had been telling me he was harboring plans to assassinate you was telling me he wasn't and hadn't ever been this time around. Your power lied to you? That's what I thought. I was thinking maybe I was working under a mistaken impression, tried adding and removing elements to see if I could get a different result. No go. And I was doing all this while having a perfectly normal conversation with Coil until he says something like, "Very dangerous. You want to be careful who you're picking a fight with." I felt my blood run cold. I had to sit down on the stair. He totally meant. If I was 100% sure he was planning on killing you, I'm 500% sure he was telling me he knows what we're up to. And so, what should I do? What should we do? I don't know, but that wasn't the end of it. I was still processing what he just said when he stepped toward the door to leave, put a hand on my shoulder, leaned close, and spoke in a very quiet voice. "Be careful, Tattletale. I value your service, but you should know your power isn't as reliable as you like to think." So, in other words, Coil has a way to trick Tattletale's power and was testing her to make her think something was going to happen that wasn't. And in other words, he can also make her think something's not going to happen when he is going to make a move. In other words,
so he made you think that you were gonna. So he made you think that you were gonna. It's like that he knew that you knew that he knew that you knew. It's that thing. It's that Russian doll thing.
So Coil was onto us, and he'd effectively taken Tattletale out of the equation. And so Taylor thinks to herself, "Well, I don't know what to do about this." And and she decides, well, whatever my overall motives might be, some part of what drove me was some desire to patch up the damage, fix that part of myself that had been taking a beating ever since I'd gotten that call about my mom's death. Only it wasn't working. Try to help the city, help the heroes, shore up my sense of self-worth, find myself fumbling.
I'm sorry, you were trying to shore up your sense of self-worth. Did I hear that correctly?
Right? She was. She was trying to be a hero to start with. Caring and discovering fresh holes in my subconscious makeup, with Dina and my betrayal of the people who'd become my friends, betraying myself by failing to keep to that overall goal.
You are doing fantastic, sweetie, at building yourself up. Bravo. You are doing great. No notes.
And there were other moments where I'd been brutal and violent, accidental or otherwise. Moments I'd made sacrifices or where I'd been callous. It wasn't subtle, either. The stacks of papers in front of me said it, clear as day. Sudden and extreme violence. Even coming here, it had been at least partially motivated by my desire to fill that hole deep inside, that spot where family was supposed to fit. I sipped on the tea.
See, she's psychomologizing herself.
Yep.
Wow.
My dad had made it with sugar, not honey. This, sitting here and drinking tea with my dad, my head someplace else entirely, It wasn't fixing anything, wasn't mending or filling anything.
No, are you gonna actually like sit and face? You're actually gonna face your problem now?
I sipped again, then drank it in big gulps. It burned going down, and it pounded my collarbone as if I could banish that sensation. Taylor? I stood up and picked up my backpack and shrugged it over the one shoulder. I've got to go. He stood too. I'm sorry. We're heading back, and it's dark, so we're going with the group. I'll come. No, you'd be alone going back. It's okay. He looked hurt. A hug? I hesitated, then stepped close and hugged him with the one arm. He gingerly wrapped his arms around my shoulders and squeezed. I'll be back, I mumbled into his shirt. No vague promises. You're going to promise, he said. Day after tomorrow? Okay. I don't have work then with the mayoral elections. We can eat lunch here and then go to the town hall.
Something bad's gonna happen so that she can't come back.
Oh shit, if Coyle had something for us to do. I stepped away, thinking of a way to formulate an excuse. I saw his forehead creased with worry. As thin as he'd been before, he looked thinner now. Looked years older. Wounded, tired, lonely. I'll see you then, I told him. See you, he said, smiling sadly. No pressure to stay. I felt the need to reward him, to express some kind of gratitude. I don't know when, but maybe I'll come home? Vague, again. But I saw him smile. Anytime, any day. But we can talk about that over lunch. Day after tomorrow. I nodded and turned to leave. I wasn't half a block away from the house before I felt the tears welling up, running down my face. I couldn't say whether they were because of my love for my dad or my despair for Dina. And that's the end of the chapter. Sorry, was that unbearable for you?
No. It was just the whole like I couldn't say like the reason I did the because she was like I couldn't say if it was because of my dad or if it was because of Dina. You're just trying very hard not to think about it. You just feel really bad about Dina. You're not doing anything. Like seriously,
She's straight up like the thing she is doing isn't really helping Dina, right?
She's drinking her own Kool-Aid is what she's doing.
Mm-hmm. All right. So yeah, more Taylor-Danny interactions, which are always interesting.
Yeah.
From my perspective.
No, these are interesting.
Yeah.
You always forget she's a child.
Yeah, until you see from Danny's perspective that like he wants
his little girl back.
He wants to be a family. Yeah, he wants his little girl. Yeah. Turns out the only way to make Taylor go back to her dad is to watch another guy almost lose his son that she was about to kill.
Great job, Taylor. You're doing this hero thing perfectly. No wonder you didn't want to join the wards. No notes. Yes, absolutely. Wonderful. 10 out of 10.
Yeah. Excellent. All right. I feel like you've said a lot. Anything else you want to add?
I think I hate Taylor.
Okay.
I'm really starting to like. At first, it was like. I was like, okay, but it just keeps going, and I'm like, okay. There's a lot of words, and I don't really see too much. Just, I'm getting frustrated. Like, the end of the story is her not really learning a damn thing. Micromanaging, like, to death, you know? Like, quite literally, micromanaging to death.
I don't know about that either, because there's a pretty powerful moment at the very, very end where she learns to let go. And that's when I think she starts to heal.
Okay, that makes sense, because that's what she's been needing to do this entire fucking time. Face her problems and, like, actually fucking deal.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we can talk about her overall changes as they come up, I guess. All right, I am tired,
I'm exhausted.
Because I wanted this to be half an hour live read, and we are
Sorry, I got pissy.
we're at an hour and a half. So
Sorry, that's on me.
it's getting pretty late. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks Isha for listening first thing in the morning, I guess. And let us know if you have any more feedback, comments, or clarifications about things I've gotten wrong. Anything else, Panda?
Nope.
All right, we finished this arc 15. Next arc we're going to be dealing with, well, next there's going to be the Triumph interlude, which hopefully we can also cover really quickly, just like this chapter. We can take a break from Taylor, essentially. And then the arc after that, they're going to finally deal with Coil.
All right.
But with a little field trip to the PRT.
All right.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.